rebellious, and when he got his microphone, then he carried on being rebellious. He wasn't scared.
I think that all his life he fought. I mean, his home life was a battle. The early days of rock and roll was a battle. The battle in Liverpool, the battle in Hamburg, the battle to be a successful musician, the battle to be a Beatle, the battle to be a successful Beatle, the battle to continue to be a successful Beatle. I mean, once you have a number one, it's a case of, well, what's next? You know, so it's always a battle. I mean, it's not easy being top. So you're always you're competing with yourself. So I think that his life had been a battle all along. And I think that there was he certainly at the end when he decided he wanted to change it, that was another battle. It was a battle to get out of the Beatles. It was a battle to go off with Yoko. I think that John had, most of his life was a battle.
His immigration fight, although I'd love to say was principally because he loved America and wanted to be able to carry on living here. That was a part of it, but a large part of it was, screw you. You're not going to tell me what to do. You know, I like it here and I'm going to fucking stay here. You know, so it's, that was John Lennon. That was the true John Lennon. You know, it was a finger up to authority. And he put his fingers up to authority all his life. And if John was still alive, believe me, he'd still be putting his finger up to authority. And that's what we loved about him.
When I first met John and John and Yoko, he knew that we were editing this journal, Red Mole, which was one of the few New Left type journals that was linking up with interesting things going on in the country at this time.
A limo arrived from Tittenhurst to pick us up, and there we arrived and spent the whole day talking to John and Yoko.
And then that turned into 2 or 3 sessions, and eventually we got a tremendous interview that was reprinted all over the world, and in which he enlarged on things that had been in the Rolling Stone, and he also went into things that they hadn't been able to cover.
It's a generational interview, and I often say to young people who want to understand the 60s and 70s, if you want to know what the atmosphere was like, read the interview we did with John Lennon at the time. It sums it all up in many ways, what people were thinking. I mean, revolution was in the air, to use another phrase. It was there. People were talking about it, and John was trying to think about it. And at that time, Yoko's influence, they were both influencing each other. And it was a wonderful thing to observe.
John was going to establish a centre for assisting the development of radical movements in Britain, above all to acquaint people involved in these movements, including the anti-war movement, with new means of communication. Video just coming on the scene at that point, and actually people didn't know how to use a video or what a contribution it could make, the ways in which video could be used so that we wouldn't just be the objects of the media, we would begin to be able to make statements of our own. And of course, that linked up with John and Yoko's situation as artists, and so there was the aesthetics of that as well as the politics of it.
But the most exciting thing about this is the day after the interview, John rang me up. And he said, hi. I said, hi. He said, I was so excited by our interview that I've written a tiny little song for the movement. And I said, what is the song called, John? And he said, it's a song I've written to be sung by the movement when it's on the streets. And it's called Power to the People. And I said, that's wonderful. I said, do you want to submit the words of the song to the Politburo for approval, John? And he said, what, do you want me to sing it to you? I said, yeah, so I can tell you what I think of it. And he sang the song to me on the phone.
He deliberately composed it as the sort of anthem that could be sung on demonstrations and in strikes and sit-ins.
And it came out as a single, I think 3 or 4 weeks later, and it was being sung everywhere. You know, so it was wonderful that something concrete, not just the interview, but the impact of that interview on him and on Robin and me actually produced this new anthem, which I promise you was much, much